I still remember the exact feeling when those words left my husband's mouth. It was like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until I couldn't breathe. "Take the guest room," Vincent said, not even looking at me. I stood there in our living room, my living room, holding a basket of laundry I'd just folded. For a second, I thought I'd heard him wrong. But then his sister Nicole turned to me with this smile, not a nice smile, but the kind that made my stomach hurt, and said something I'll never forget. Or better yet, move out. Hope you're gone by the weekend. Let me back up, because 3 days before this happened, everything seemed normal. Well, mostly normal. It was Tuesday morning, and I was making coffee in our kitchen. The sun was coming through the window above the sink, making everything look warm and pretty. I loved our house. Vincent and I had bought it 2 years ago, and I'd spent so much time making it feel like home. Soft blue curtains in the living room, plants on the windowsills, photos of us on our wedding day hanging in the hallway. Vincent came downstairs already dressed for work, his tie a little crooked. I smiled and reached up to fix it, but he stepped back. "I got it," he said, adjusting it himself while looking at his phone. "Coffee's ready," I offered, pointing to his favorite mug on the counter. "I'll grab some at work." He kissed my forehead quickly, so quickly I barely felt it, and headed for the door. "Late meeting tonight. Don't wait up." The door closed before I could respond. I stood there, holding my own coffee mug, feeling something I couldn't quite name. Vincent had been like this for weeks. Distant. Always on his phone. Always busy. Always somewhere else. Even when he was standing right next to me. I pushed the feeling away and went to my office. I work from home as a graphic designer, which I love. That day, I was designing a logo for a new bakery downtown. I got lost in the work, in the colors and shapes, and forgot about Vincent's cold shoulder. Wednesday was more of the same. Quick goodbye in the morning. Text at lunch saying he'd be late again. I ate dinner alone, watching our food get cold across from his empty chair. Thursday, I tried harder. I made his favorite dinner chicken with roasted vegetables and those crispy potatoes he always said nobody made better than me. I set the table nice, with candles and everything. When he finally came home at almost 9 o'clock, he looked at the table and sighed. "I ate already, Clara. I told you I had a work dinner." He hadn't told me. I checked my phone right there, no message about any work dinner. But when I opened my mouth to say so, he was already walking upstairs. "I'm tired. Big day tomorrow." I sat at that table alone, staring at the candles burning down, and felt something crack inside my chest. Small, but definitely there. Friday afternoon, I was working in my office when I heard a car door slam. Then another. I looked out the window and saw Vincent's car in the driveway. It was only 3 o'clock. He never came home this early. But he wasn't alone. Nicole climbed out of the passenger seat, her pregnant belly showing under her tight shirt. Her husband Blake got out of the back, pulling suitcases from the trunk. Big suitcases. The kind you pack when you're going somewhere for a long time. I met them at the front door, confused. "Hey, I didn't know you were coming. Vincent didn't mention." "We're staying here," Nicole interrupted, brushing past me into the house like she owned it. "Our apartment has problems. Water damage or something. We need to stay for a while." Vincent followed behind her, not meeting my eyes. Blake gave me an apologetic shrug and carried the suitcases inside. "For how long?" I asked, trying to keep my voice friendly. Nicole looked around our living room, touching things, picking up the picture frames and putting them down in different spots, however long it takes. "I'm 6 months pregnant. I can't be breathing in mold and chemicals while they fix things." Something felt wrong. Vincent still wasn't looking at me. And Nicole had this expression on her face, like she was happy about something. Too happy. That evening was awkward. I made dinner for everyone, even though Nicole criticized how I cooked the chicken. Blake stayed quiet, eating fast with his head down. Vincent nodded along with whatever his sister said. After dinner, I started cleaning up. Nicole announced she was tired and needed to lie down. I assumed she'd go to the guest room. We had a perfectly nice guest room with a comfortable bed. But then Vincent said it. "Clara, take the guest room tonight. Nicole and Blake need the master bedroom. She's pregnant and needs the better mattress." I turned from the sink, soap suds dripping from my hands. "What?" "The guest room. Just for tonight." Nicole appeared in the doorway, and that's when she smiled that awful smile. Or better yet, move out. Hope you're gone by the weekend. Vincent said nothing. He didn't defend me, didn't tell his sister she was being cruel. He just stood there, waiting for me to obey. So I did. I walked upstairs, past our bedroom, where Nicole was already going through my dresser, and closed myself in the tiny guest room. That night, I lay awake in the dark, listening to them laugh in my bedroom, and I knew something terrible was happening. I just didn't know how terrible yet. I woke up Saturday morning on the narrow guest bed with my neck aching and my eyes burning from crying half the night. For a few seconds, I forgot where I was. Then I heard Nicole's laugh coming from my bedroom, and it all came rushing back. Vincent had kicked me out of my own room. His sister told me to move out of my own house. And he said nothing to stop her. I got dressed quietly and went downstairs. The kitchen was a mess. Someone had made breakfast and left everything out. Eggs stuck to a pan, milk on the counter getting warm, breadcrumbs everywhere. I started cleaning automatically, my hands moving while my brain tried to make sense of what was happening. Vincent came down first, already looking at his phone. "We need to talk," I said softly. "Not now, Clara. Nicole needs things to be calm. The stress isn't good for the baby." "But Vincent, last night," I said, "not now." He poured coffee into my favorite mug, the one my mom gave me before she died, and walked away with it. I stood there staring at the empty spot where my mug had been. Nicole came down an hour later wearing my robe. My robe. The soft purple one Aunt Patricia gave me for Christmas. It barely closed around her pregnant belly, but she had it on like it belonged to her. "This house needs work," she announced, opening my cabinets and moving things around. "Who organizes cups on this shelf? They should be closer to the sink." She started taking down my cups and putting them in a different cabinet. "Nicole, I have a system." "Had a system? Trust me, my way is better. When you have a family, you understand these things." She patted her belly and gave me a pointed look. Vincent and I had been trying for a baby for a year. She knew that. Everyone knew that. Blake came down and sat at the table without saying good morning. He just opened the newspaper, like none of this was strange, like his wife wasn't rearranging someone else's kitchen while wearing their clothes. The whole weekend went like that, Nicole touching everything, changing everything, commenting on everything. She didn't like my curtains too dark. She thought my couch was cheap looking. She went through my closet and actually put on my clothes, saying, "You never wear this anyway," about a dress I wore all the time. When I tried to say something, Vincent pulled me aside. "She's 6 months pregnant and just lost her apartment. Can you please try to be understanding? It's temporary." "How temporary?" He didn't answer. Sunday afternoon, Margaret and Harold came to visit. I thought maybe Vincent's parents would see how crazy this situation was. Margaret had never been warm to me, but she was always polite at least. Not today. She walked right past me at the door and hugged Nicole. "Sweetheart, how are you holding up? This must be so stressful." "I'm managing, Mom, though the house needs a lot of work." Nicole shot me a look. Some people just aren't natural homemakers. Margaret nodded like this made perfect sense. "Well, you've always had such wonderful instincts. Even as a little girl, you knew how a home should feel." I started to leave the room, but Margaret called after me. "Clara, while you're up, could you bring us some tea? Nicole shouldn't be on her feet too much." I made tea for everyone. No one said thank you. Harold at least gave me an uncomfortable smile, like he knew this was all wrong but wouldn't say anything. He never did. Margaret ran that family, and everyone just followed along. After they left, I tried again to talk to Vincent. We were in the kitchen, and I kept my voice calm and quiet. "This isn't working. I understand Nicole needs help, but she can't just take over our entire house. Our bedroom, my clothes, my things." "Our things," he corrected. "We're married. There's no my things." "Then why do I feel like a guest in my own home?" He slammed his hand on the counter, making me jump. "Because you're acting like one. Nicole is family. She needs us. Why can't you just be supportive?" I stared at him. In 4 years of marriage, he'd never raised his voice at me like that. That evening, Nicole announced she was tired and needed peace and quiet. She looked straight at me when she said it. I went to the guest room without being asked. Around midnight, I got up to get water. The house was dark and quiet. As I passed the living room, I heard voices. Vincent and Nicole were sitting on the couch, talking low. I stopped in the hallway where they couldn't see me. "She'll leave on her own if we push hard enough," Nicole was saying. "Then you won't have to go through with the messy divorce." My hand froze on the wall. "I don't know," Vincent said quietly. Maybe nothing. You said you were done. You said you wanted out but didn't want to lose the house. This is perfect. We make her so uncomfortable she leaves, and then you get everything." I couldn't hear what Vincent said next. My heart was pounding too loud in my ears. I walked backward to the guest room, closed the door, and sat on the bed in the dark. They wanted me gone. This whole thing was planned. Nicole wasn't here because of apartment problems. She was here to push me out. And Vincent was letting it happen. My hands were shaking, but my mind went very calm and very clear. If they wanted me gone, I'd leave, but not the way they expected. I picked up my phone and started making a list. Monday morning, I woke up before everyone else. My mind had been racing all night, but now I knew exactly what to do. I called my boss and told her I had a family emergency and needed a few days off. She said to take all the time I needed. Then I sat on the edge of the guest bed and made the first real call. "Aunt Patricia, it's Clara. I need help." My aunt had been my mom's older sister, and after Mom died 5 years ago, she'd tried to stay close. But Vincent never liked her much. He said she asked too many questions and got too involved. Now I understood he just didn't like anyone who actually paid attention to me. "What's wrong?" "Sweetheart?" Her voice was instantly alert, even though it was barely 7 in the morning. I told her everything. The words poured out Vincent's distance, Nicole showing up, being kicked out of my bedroom, the conversation I'd overheard. When I finished, there was a long silence. "Pack your important things," Aunt Patricia finally said, her voice tight with anger, "and call this number." She gave me the name of a lawyer, a good one. By 8 o'clock, everyone had left. Vincent went to work without saying goodbye. Blake headed to his construction job. Nicole left with Margaret for a prenatal appointment, complaining the whole way out the door about how she needed better pregnancy pillows and maybe I should order some. The moment their cars disappeared down the street, I moved fast. First, I called the lawyer. Her name was Miss Chen, and she was kind but direct. She asked me questions, lots of them, about the house, about our money, about everything. When I told her about the conversation I'd overheard, she went quiet. "Clara, I need you to check your bank accounts right now, all of them." I opened my laptop and logged into our joint account. Then I felt my stomach drop. Money was missing. A lot of money. Thousands of dollars had been moved over the past 2 months into an account I didn't recognize. The transfers were small enough that I hadn't noticed, but they added up. "He's been taking our money," I whispered. "Document everything," Miss Chen said firmly. "Screenshot every transaction. I'll file paperwork today to protect your assets, but I need you to do something else. Get your important documents out of that house. Anything with your name on it, passport, birth certificate, social security card, anything about the house purchase, everything." I spent the next hour gathering papers from our home office. Marriage certificate, my mom's death certificate, the house deed, and that's when I saw something I'd forgotten. The down payment for the house had come from my inheritance from Mom, $50,000, my money. I took photos of everything with my phone, then put the originals in a folder. Next, I went through the house photographing every room, every piece of furniture, everything. Miss Chen said I'd need proof of what was here, what I'd contributed to our home. Then I started packing. Not everything that would be too obvious. Just my most important things. Clothes I really loved. My laptop and work files. Photos of my parents. My grandmother's jewelry. The quilt my mom made me. Books that meant something. I loaded everything into my car, making multiple trips. My hands were steady. I wasn't crying. I felt cold and focused, like I was watching myself from far away. I rented a storage unit across town and moved everything there. It took 3 hours. The whole time, I kept expecting someone to come home and catch me, but no one did. Back at the house, I cleaned up any sign that I'd been packing. I left my regular everyday clothes in the closet, left my shampoo in the bathroom, left everything looking normal. That evening, I sat through dinner like nothing was wrong. Nicole talked about baby names. Blake nodded. Vincent scrolled through his phone. I ate my pasta and smiled when I was supposed to. Blake and I were thinking, Nicole said, putting down her fork. We might need to stay a few months. Maybe until after the baby comes. It's just safer, you know? And this house is so big, plenty of room. She looked right at me when she said it. Of course, I said quietly. Whatever you need. Vincent actually looked surprised that I agreed so easily. Nicole looked almost disappointed, like she'd wanted a fight. After dinner, I went to the guest room and packed one small suitcase with things for a few days. I set it inside the closet where no one would see it. Then I sat down and wrote a note on a piece of plain paper. You wanted me gone by the weekend. I'm giving you what you want. That's all it said. I folded it and put it in my pocket. Tuesday morning, Vincent left for a business trip. He'd mentioned it last week, 3 days in another city for some conference. I'd forgotten about it until he came downstairs with his travel bag. Be back Friday, he said to the room, not to me specifically. I watched his car pull away. Then I watched Blake leave for work. Then I turned to Nicole, who was still in her pajamas, my pajamas actually eating cereal at the counter. I'm going out for a bit, I told her. Grocery shopping. She waved me away without looking up from her phone. I got in my car, placed the note on the kitchen counter where Vincent would find it, picked up my hidden suitcase, and drove away. I didn't look back once. Aunt Patricia's house sat on a quiet street lined with oak trees, 2 hours away from the life I'd just left behind. She had a main house and a small guest house in the back, separated by a garden full of roses and lavender. When I pulled into her driveway Tuesday afternoon, she was already waiting on the porch. She didn't ask questions. She just wrapped me in a hug that smelled like vanilla and let me cry for the first time since I'd overheard that conversation. You're safe now, she whispered. Everything else we can handle. The guest house was perfect. 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a cozy living room with big windows. Aunt Patricia had already stocked the fridge and put fresh flowers on the table. I felt something loosen in my chest when I closed the door. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. My phone started buzzing around dinner time. Vincent calling. I stared at the screen, watching it light up over and over. Then I turned it off completely. Wednesday morning, I met with Miss Chen in person. Her office had a view of downtown, and she sat across from me with a folder already thick with papers. I've filed for legal separation and started divorce proceedings, she said. I've also frozen your joint accounts and filed for temporary support. Given the evidence of financial manipulation and the fact that your inheritance funded the house down payment, you have an excellent case. What happens now? Now he gets served, probably today. And Clara, you need to prepare yourself. He's going to try to contact you. He's going to be angry, then confused, then he'll probably try to apologize. Don't engage. Everything goes through me. I nodded, but my hands were shaking. Miss Chen's expression softened. You did the right thing. Most people wait until there's nothing left to save. You got out while you still could. Back at the guest house, I tried to work on a design project but couldn't focus. Aunt Patricia brought me lunch and sat with me while I picked at a sandwich. Your mother would be proud of you, she said quietly. She never liked Vincent much, you know. She told me once that he smiled with his mouth but not his eyes. Why didn't you say something? Would you have listened? She was right. I'd been so in love, so sure we were building something real. Thursday afternoon, my phone was still off, but I logged into my email on my laptop. There were 17 messages from Vincent. The first few were angry. Where are you? What kind of childish game is this? You can't just leave without talking to me. This is insane. Then they shifted to confused. Clara, please call me. We can work this out. I don't understand what's happening. Just come home. The most recent one, from an hour ago, was different. Your lawyer contacted me. This is really what you want? You're going to throw away 4 years over a misunderstanding? I closed the laptop and felt absolutely nothing. That evening, Aunt Patricia told me she'd made a phone call. To who? Margaret. I sat up straight. Why would you call her? Because she needed to hear the truth from someone other than her children. Aunt Patricia handed me her phone. I sent her these. The screenshots, the texts between Vincent and Nicole, planning how to push me out, the bank records showing the money Vincent had moved, everything. What did she say? At first, she didn't believe me, said I was making trouble. But I told her to ask Vincent herself, to look at his phone records, to actually investigate instead of just taking Nicole's word for everything. Aunt Patricia smiled grimly. I may have also mentioned that if she didn't get Nicole out of that house, you'd be filing for a court order to remove her, which wouldn't look good for anyone. Friday morning, Miss Chen called with news. Vincent's been served with all the paperwork. The court order requires him to remove any unauthorized occupants from the marital home immediately and prevents him from hiding or moving any more assets. He has 2 weeks to either buy out your share of the house or agree to sell it. What about the money he took? He has to return it, all of it. Plus, he'll be paying your legal fees and temporary support. She paused. Clara, his lawyer called me already. Vincent wants to talk to you. No. Good. That's what I told him. Everything goes through me now. After we hung up, I sat in the garden behind the guest house and let the sun warm my face. Somewhere 2 hours away, Vincent was probably panicking. Nicole was probably furious. Their perfect plan was falling apart. I picked up my phone and finally turned it on. 32 missed calls, dozens of text messages, 3 voicemails. I listened to the most recent one. Vincent's voice was tight and strained. Clara, please. This is crazy. Just come home and we'll talk about it. You don't understand what you're doing. That house will lose everything. Just please call me back. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I was wrong. Just worry about losing the house. I deleted the voicemail and blocked his number. Then, I opened my laptop and started working on the bakery logo I'd abandoned. My hands were steady, my mind was clear. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. A week and a half had passed since I left, and I was sitting in Aunt Patricia's garden with my morning coffee when Miss Chen called with an update. Things are falling apart over there, she said, and I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. Vincent tried to contest the account freeze, but the judge saw the transaction records and denied his request. He's scrambling to pay his regular bills now, and Nicole received the eviction notice yesterday. I took a sip of coffee. How do you know? Because her lawyer called me. Apparently, she's refusing to leave and insisting this is all a big misunderstanding. Miss Chen laughed. Her lawyer didn't sound like he believed her. That afternoon, Aunt Patricia came to the guest house with her tablet. You need to see this. She'd somehow gotten a hold of an email chain, I didn't ask how, between Vincent, Nicole, and Margaret. My aunt had connections everywhere, and honestly, I didn't care about privacy anymore. They'd given up that right when they'd plotted against me. The emails were from that morning. Nicole to Vincent. Fix this now. You promised we could stay until the baby came. You said she'd just disappear quietly. Vincent to Nicole. I'm trying. Her lawyer won't let me talk to her. Do you know how much money I have to come up with? I can't afford to buy her out of the house. Margaret to both. This is a disaster. Everyone at church is talking. Harold's business partners are asking questions. You two need to figure out how to make this go away quietly. Nicole to Margaret. This is Vincent's fault. He should have handled his wife better. I read through them twice, feeling a strange calm. These people had sat at my table, eaten my food, slept in my bed, and the whole time they'd seen me as nothing but an obstacle. There's more, Aunt Patricia said, scrolling down. Margaret tried to call me yesterday. I didn't answer, so she left a voicemail. She played it on speaker. Margaret's voice was tight and formal. Patricia, I think we should meet and discuss this situation like adults. Surely Clara doesn't want to drag this through the courts. It would be so much simpler if everyone just calmed down and worked together. Family is family after all. Please call me back. Family is family, I repeated quietly. I was family too. That didn't seem to matter. Aunt Patricia squeezed my hand. You're better than all of them combined. That evening, Miss Chen sent me another email. Vincent's lawyer had submitted a proposal. Vincent would return half the money he'd taken and give me 30% of the house value if I agreed to a quick, quiet divorce. I called her immediately. 30%? That's insulting. I know. I already told them no. We have proof your inheritance paid the down payment, proof he was planning to defraud you, and proof he's been moving money illegally. We're asking for 70% of the house value or the house itself, all the money returned, and he pays all legal fees. What did they say? They're panicking. Vincent can't afford any of that. He'll have to sell the house, and even then, he'll barely break even after paying you. Good, I thought. Let him panic. 2 days later, on a Sunday morning, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I answered carefully. Clara? It was Harold, Vincent's father. His voice sounded tired and sad. Please don't hang up. I just want to talk for a minute. I almost ended the call, but something in his tone stopped me. What do you want? I wanted to say I'm sorry. Margaret showed me everything, the messages, the bank records, all of it. I didn't know what Vincent and Nicole were planning. I swear I didn't know. I said nothing. You were always kind to me, he continued. You always asked about my woodworking projects and actually listened to the answers. You didn't deserve any of this. He took a shaky breath. I told Vincent he's made the biggest mistake of his life. I told Nicole she should be ashamed. They're not listening, but I wanted you to know that at least someone in this family sees what really happened. Thank you, I said quietly, and I meant it. That house, the one you and Vincent bought your mother, helped with that, didn't she? The down payment came from my inheritance from her. Then you fight for it. You hear me? Don't let my son take anything else from you. After he hung up, I sat there holding the phone, feeling something shift. Harold's apology didn't fix anything, but it mattered that someone from Vincent's family acknowledged the truth. Monday morning brought the call I'd been waiting for. Vincent agreed to our terms, Miss Chen announced. 70% of the house value, all the money returned. He pays legal fees. He signed this morning. Just like that? He didn't have a choice. His lawyer showed him what would happen if this went to trial, all those text messages becoming public record, questions about financial fraud, the whole mess. He's cutting his losses. I closed my eyes and felt relief wash over me like warm water. There's one more thing, Miss Chen added. Nicole called our office yesterday. She wanted to talk to you, said she needed to apologize. What did you tell her? That all communication goes through me, same as everyone else. But Clara, she didn't sound sorry. She sounded angry that she got caught. Then she can stay angry. I hung up and walked into Aunt Patricia's garden, where the roses were blooming and the morning sun made everything look golden and new. Somewhere across town, Vincent was signing away our life together. And I felt nothing but free. Margaret didn't want to believe it at first. According to Aunt Patricia, who somehow always knew everything, Vincent's mother had demanded to see his phone herself. She'd driven to the house on a Tuesday afternoon, walked in without knocking, and refused to leave until Vincent unlocked his messages. What she found there destroyed whatever story Vincent and Nicole had been telling. The texts went back months, Nicole asking if Vincent was finally ready to get rid of her. Vincent complaining about how I didn't contribute enough, even though I paid half of everything. Messages about how they could make me so uncomfortable I'd leave on my own, how Nicole could move in and fix the house the way it should be, how Vincent wouldn't have to split assets if I just walked away voluntarily. Margaret, for all her faults, wasn't stupid. She saw the dates on those messages weeks before Nicole's apartment supposedly had water damage. There was no water damage, there never had been. Aunt Patricia told me all this Wednesday morning over coffee. She'd gotten it directly from Harold, who'd called her after the confrontation. Margaret lost it, Aunt Patricia said, shaking her head, started screaming at both of them. Told Vincent he was just like his uncle who'd cheated his business partner and brought shame on the family. Told Nicole she'd raised her better than this. What did they say? Vincent tried to defend himself, said things had gotten out of hand, but it wasn't as bad as it looked. Nicole tried to lie at first. I set down my coffee cup. At first, Margaret kept reading the messages out loud. Every awful thing they'd said about you, every detail of their plan. Finally, Nicole admitted it, but said you deserved it for not being a good enough wife. Aunt Patricia's expression hardened. That's when Margaret slapped her. I sat back, stunned. Margaret had always babied Nicole, always taken her side in everything. Harold said it was the first time he'd seen Margaret actually hold Nicole accountable for anything. She told them both they'd humiliated the family, that everyone at church was whispering, that Harold's business reputation was suffering because people were taking your side. People are taking my side? Of course they are, sweetheart. You think nobody noticed how Nicole treated you? How Vincent ignored you? People saw. They just didn't say anything while you were there. Thursday afternoon, Nicole went into false labor. The stress had caused contractions, and Blake rushed her to the hospital in a panic. She was fine, the baby was fine, but she had to stay overnight for observation. I only knew because Miss Chen told me. Apparently, Nicole's lawyer had called to ask if we could delay proceedings because of Nicole's health crisis. I told him no, Miss Chen said flatly. Her health problems don't change what she did. That evening at the hospital, according to the version that made its way back to me through Aunt Patricia's network of sources, everything exploded. Nicole was in a hospital bed, hooked up to monitors, with Margaret, Harold, Vincent, and Blake all crowded into the room. A nurse had just checked her vitals and assured everyone the baby was fine when Nicole turned on Vincent. "This is your fault. You said you'd handle everything. You said it would be simple." I tried. How was I supposed to know she'd get a lawyer and freeze everything? "You should have divorced her months ago like I told you to." Margaret stepped between them. "Both of you, stop it. You've done enough damage. We wouldn't be in this mess if Vincent had just done what he promised." Nicole's voice rose, and the monitor started beeping faster. "Now we're losing everything because he couldn't control his own wife." That's when Blake, quiet Blake who never said anything, finally spoke up. "Maybe we're losing everything because what we did was wrong." Everyone turned to stare at him. "We took over her house. We pushed her out of her own bedroom. You went through her things, wore her clothes, treated her like garbage." Blake looked at his wife with an expression I wished I could have seen. "I went along with it because you're my wife, but Clara didn't deserve any of that." "Don't you dare take her side," Nicole shrieked. The nurse came rushing back in. "You all need to leave, now." She needs to stay calm. In the chaos that followed, as the nurse ushered everyone out, Nicole screamed one more thing that the entire floor probably heard. "She's lying, Mom. Please tell me she's lying." But Margaret didn't tell her that. Margaret just walked away down the hospital corridor, with Harold following behind her, leaving Nicole sobbing in the bed. Vincent tried to stay, tried to calm his sister down, but the nurses made him leave too. When Aunt Patricia told me this story, she was drinking tea in my guest house, and she had the smallest smile on her face. "It's all falling apart over there," she said. "Nicole and Blake are barely speaking. Vincent's sleeping on the couch because Nicole's still in the master bedroom and won't leave. Margaret isn't returning Nicole's calls. And the court deadline is in 3 days. What happens in 3 days? Vincent has to have Nicole out of the house and prove he's begun the buyout process, or the house gets listed for sale immediately. I thought about my old house, the one I decorated with such care, where I'd planned to raise children and grow old. They'd ruined it for me. Every room had a bad memory now. "I hope he can't do it," I said quietly. "I hope they have to sell." Aunt Patricia reached over and squeezed my hand. "Either way, sweetheart, you're getting what you deserve, and they're getting what they deserve too." Through the window, the sun was setting, painting everything orange and pink. 3 days. In 3 days, I'd know exactly how this ended. I could wait 3 more days. 3 months had passed since I left that house, and I was standing in my new kitchen watching the morning sun stream through the windows. My kitchen, my house, my life. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago. Vincent had signed everything without fighting anymore. He couldn't afford to fight. In the end, he'd chosen to sell the house rather than try to buy me out. We split the sale, but with my 70% claim on the value, plus all the money he had to return, plus legal fees, Vincent walked away with almost nothing. I used my settlement to buy this place a small cottage closer to Aunt Patricia, with a garden in the back and enough room for a real art studio. It needed work, but it was mine. Completely mine. No bad memories. No ghosts of a marriage that had rotted from the inside. I'd spent the last month painting walls, hanging curtains I actually liked, and arranging furniture that I'd chosen. Every decision was mine alone, and that felt better than I ever could have imagined. My graphic design business had grown too. Word got out somehow about what happened, small towns talk, and people started reaching out. Other women, mostly, telling me they admired my strength, asking if I was taking new clients. I had more work than I could handle. The bakery whose logo I'd been designing sent me a huge fruit basket and a note that said, "For new beginnings." I'd cried over that basket for 20 minutes. Nicole had her baby 3 weeks ago. A girl. Aunt Patricia told me because Harold had sent her a birth announcement. I felt nothing when I heard. No happiness for them, no anger, nothing. They were just people I used to know. Nicole and Blake had moved into a tiny 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. Their marriage was hanging by a thread, according to Aunt Patricia's sources. Blake had apparently grown a backbone and started standing up to Nicole. She didn't like it. Vincent was living in a studio apartment and working extra hours to cover his debts. Margaret barely spoke to him. The family's reputation at church had taken a hit, and Margaret blamed Vincent entirely for the embarrassment. I should have felt happy about their struggles. Maybe a few months ago I would have, but now I just felt free. What they were going through wasn't my problem anymore. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "Clara, it's Nicole. I got your number from Vincent's old phone. I need to talk to you. Please. It's important." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it and blocked the number. 5 minutes later, another text from a different number. "It's still me. Please don't block this one. I really need to apologize. I was wrong about everything. The baby's here now and I understand things differently. Can we talk?" I read it twice. She understood things differently now that she had a baby. Now that her life had fallen apart. Now that being cruel had consequences. I typed out a response. "I hope your daughter teaches you to be a better person than you were to me. Don't contact me again." Then I blocked that number too. There was a knock at my front door. I opened it to find Aunt Patricia holding a box of pastries and 2 cups of fancy coffee. "Thought you could use company while you finish the studio," she said, walking in like she owned the place. I loved that about her. We spent the morning painting the last wall of my studio, a soft sage green. Aunt Patricia told me stories about my mother, things I'd never heard before. How Mom had left her first boyfriend because he'd criticized her cooking once too often, how she'd always said that a woman should never shrink herself to make a man comfortable. "She'd be so proud of you," Aunt Patricia said, stepping back to admire our paintwork, not just for leaving, but for building something new. After she left, I stood in my studio, surrounded by afternoon light, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real, deep peace. My laptop dinged with an email. A potential client asking about a complete branding package for their new business. Good money. Interesting work. I sat down to respond and caught my reflection in the window. I looked different. Lighter somehow. The tightness around my eyes was gone. I was smiling without forcing it. That night, I made dinner in my kitchen just for me, exactly what I wanted, and ate it at my small table while reading a book I'd been meaning to finish. No one criticized my cooking. No one ignored me. No one made me feel small. My phone buzzed one more time. Another unknown number. "Clara, it's Vincent. Please, I made a terrible mistake. I see that now. Can we talk about trying again? I still love you." I looked at those words for a long time. Once, they would have broken me. Once, I would have wondered if I'd been too harsh, if I should give him another chance. Now I just felt tired of people who only valued me after I was gone. I blocked the number and turned off my phone. Then I picked up my book, curled into my favorite chair, the soft green one I'd bought just because I liked it, and kept reading. Outside, the sun was setting over my garden, painting everything in shades of gold and orange. Tomorrow I'd plant roses. Maybe some lavender too, like Aunt Patricia had. I thought about that awful moment 3 months ago. Nicole's smirk, Vincent's betrayal, the way they'd made me feel worthless in my own home. And I realized something important. They'd actually given me a gift. They'd shown me exactly who they were before I'd wasted any more of my life. They'd pushed me so hard that I finally pushed back. They'd made me so uncomfortable that I'd found the strength to leave. I wasn't bitter anymore. I wasn't angry. I was just free. And that was worth more than any apology they could ever give. I turned the page of my book and smiled. This was my life now. Small, quiet, and completely mine. And it was absolutely perfect.